Good afternoon. This is Esther Lawson with God's Grace Garden, and this is the first weekend to fall, and I just wanted to do an update because a lot of changes have taken place since my last video. I removed all of the morning glories from both sides of the mini garden to make room for other vegetables that are newly planted and that are growing well. I also had a tragedy take place in the garden. If you go too many days without monitoring it, a lot of things can take place very quickly. I had some type of a bacteria or something that got on the leaves here. If you take a look here, you can see the remnants of it still lingering around, but it's under control. What I basically did was I stripped this thing down. I took all the morning glories out of here, and I removed a whole bunch of the leaves from the green beans, and a lot has grown. As you can see, all of that there is new growth coming out, and it started flowering. It didn't, well, actually it never stopped flowering. It's just starting to flower even more since it's gotten a little bit more healthier. So basically what I did is I put neem oil on there, and I found this organic, I guess, insecticide, miticide, and fungicide. It's all natural and is made from basically just fish oil and other oils, and it's called Phyto, and I'll get that container so you can see that. Just 1 minute. Alright, this is the stuff right here. If you take a look at it, it's called Phyto. It's an insecticide, a miticide, and a fungicide. It kills the eggs and prevents nymphs, larvae, and mites, tripes, mealybugs, white flies, and aphids too. And the white flies is what I had an infestation from around the green beans, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But it started from a tree branch that I had in the woods that was hanging on top of the garden. So we'll take a look at that tree and the remnants of what the white flies did to the Kentucky green beans that I had growing. But before we go down there, let's look at the containers here. The cucumber that I had growing is still there, but I removed all of the leaves because it had gotten some type of a fungus on it, and I put the Phyto oil on there, and it cleared the infection up, but I still wanted to remove the leaves that were already infected so that it wouldn't continue to spread. I had like a tomato topsy-turvy that I bought at Lowe's about 4 months ago that had died, and what I did is I brought it home and I've nurtured it, and it's starting to fruit for the second time. When I bought it at Lowe's, it had already had tomatoes growing on it, but you see there it has more flowers going on it again, and so does the rest of the tomatoes throughout my whole garden. And that was my concern since I got the tomatoes in the ground pretty late, around about July. I was concerned that the summer heat and, you know, it wouldn't have enough time to grow properly, but nevertheless it's growing just fine, and I'm gonna have some fall tomatoes which are already growing down in the main garden. But if you look around here, since I removed all those leaves, it's just giving the pole beans that I have here a better chance to grow and receive a little bit more sunlight. I also planted some more cucumber plants. Let's look around here. Right here in the garden, the cucumber plants. I put some here, and I put some more in there, and in various other places. Let's look at the right side of the mini garden next. Okay, the right side of the mini garden. This used to be the big morning glory tower thing that I had here. Well, I took all of that stuff out because I wanted to try something new for the fall, and plus, since we'll be getting less sunlight, I wanted to make room so that the vegetables growing here could receive enough sunlight, and the morning glories weren't covering them up. But I planted some cucumbers in there, you see, some in here, and the Swiss chard. There's been, you know, doing okay, but because it hasn't gotten enough sunlight, it's not growing as well. But it should be growing just fine from now on. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the third part of the mini garden and then the main garden. Okay, these tire trucks here, not tire garden things, whatever you want to call them, they've been here for about a month or so. And look at those pole beans that I have growing there with a Swiss chard at the bottom of it. And I have some Georgia collard greens in there. And I accidentally planted a tomato in here too. I was picking the suckers off of this tomato plant, which has some nice flowers growing. About to start opening up on there. You see that? Let's get a better look so you can see exactly what it looks like. Well, I don't think it's going to get any better than that, but that's pretty good. You can see the flowers on the tomato plant. This plant itself came from a sucker, so I was taking the suckers off of it, and one fell over in the pole bean thing, and then another one fell over here. And I have another tomato plant growing on this one. I don't have any flowers on it yet, but it should be getting some soon. So these are the tires. Another thing that happened was I had grasshopper invasion in the garden, and they just came through and just massacred all the leaves off of some of the cabbage that I had growing in here. So some of the cabbage didn't make it because of the grasshoppers, but I was just like, oh my goodness, what I'm gonna do about the grasshoppers? Every time I saw one, I'd kill it. And they're still out here. However, I'm just gonna leave it in the hands of the Lord and natural selection, because out of nowhere some frogs have appeared, and I hear them out there. And since the frogs have come, I don't have as many grasshoppers as I did about a week or two ago. So their population is slowly but surely diminishing, and hopefully I won't have to put anything harmful on the garden in order to take care of them. But grasshoppers are terrible. They'll eat up everything, and we'll see some of the damage that they done here in a little bit. But this is one of the tires that didn't make it because of the grasshoppers. So today I planted some squash there. So we'll see if the fall weather allowed the squash to grow. We have about a good 8 more weeks before the first frost, I'm thinking. So that's plenty of time for my tomatoes and everything else to finish growing and get prepared for the next spring season. So let's go ahead and take a look at the main garden. Okay, here's the main garden, and if you look here, this was a squash plant that, you know, wasn't doing too well because of the I guess disease that got on the plants in the trellis that was in the mini garden. So I took it out and I was gonna throw it away, and I had just threw it. I was mad. I just threw it off of over my shoulder, and it landed in the garden itself, and the root was just laying in the dirt, and out of nowhere this flower still was, you know, opening up. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the ground down here and see what happens. So I think it should survive. It's hanging in there. But anyhow, some green beans that I planted about, I'll say, a month ago, they're flowering there. Look at those pretty flowers on there. So green beans have been growing, and I've picked the small ones off to encourage it to continue to grow even more. I have a cucumber plant growing just right here, and I guess I'll kind of connect it all the way over to this trellis, and eventually it'll be growing up there. So cucumbers all around in the garden growing. Some of them should be producing vegetables on them within 50 days, so I'll have a little bit of time to eat some cucumbers before the first frost. Also some Kentucky Wonder green beans that I thought wouldn't make it, but they did, both of them, and they're in fact flowering, so they have flowers growing on them. So the compost tea helped bring them over the hill, so I appreciate that. These right here is a topsy-turvy that I planted sometime in the summer. It has a beautiful flower on it. Look there. This focus isn't doing too well, but you get the idea. That's a flower. There it goes. Focus and whatever. Okay. But it's growing. We got tomatoes growing throughout the garden, even in the topsy-turvy that I made myself. This was just a regular tomato thing. I put a tomato at the top and a tomato in the bottom, and I also snuck a cucumber in there. I'm not tall enough to see in there, but I just dug my hand in there and shoved the cucumber in the dirt. So, and I kind of patted it around to try to cover up the roots. So in the next month, if I planted it well blindly, then we should have some cucumber coming out of there. I just wanted to see what happened. But anyways, let's look over here. We have some collard greens growing right here. Not collard, yeah, Morris Heading collard greens, not the Georgia collard greens, but Morris Heading. And I bought those from the store. They're hanging in there. Some slugs had gotten a hold to them, but they seem to be gone since I put the Phyto oil on the garden. And this was maybe about a month ago I put this oil, and since then the garden is quiet down. Only thing that I see around is just like bees and a lot of worms. That's a good thing. So it doesn't affect the good organisms or the good insects and things that are needed to keep your garden healthy. But these are some more Kentucky Wonders. Now let's take a look at what the white flies had done. Oh, what kind of bug that is. I remember doing a video over here about 2 months ago, and I saw the first white fly, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what that is. If something happens over here, I'll know what it is. So trust your gut feeling. I did it this time and it helped. But pause that thought for a minute before we take a look at the damage it did to the leaves on the Kentucky Wonders, so we can look at the source of the problem. Okay, this right here is a big, humongous creek behind the garden, and this tree here was infested with just white flies. And even though the tree, you know, is infested with white flies and it has this black mold growing on it, nothing is wrong with the tree. It was wrong with the tree itself. It's just that whenever the white flies get on it, it leaves this honeydew on the leaves, which in fact later on mold grows on top of the honeydew, and you get this black soot covering the leaves, and sunlight can't get through to the leaves, so the plant won't grow, and overall it'll just look like the tree is, or the plant is sick, and really all it is just black mold. Just like you have mold in your bathroom, as long as you put bleach or whatever you use to clean your bathroom up, you know, the mold can't grow. So that's basically what I did. I got some soapy water and I got a toothbrush and I scrubbed all the leaves that were still healthy, and I got all the black mold off of them, and I pulled the rest of the leaves that didn't look like they were going to make it, and it looked like a bare little stem. But over the last month it's grown back, and I have a nice beautiful Kentucky Wonder Vine and green beans growing. So let's take a look back at them again. Okay, this is one of the leaves that still has a little bit of the black mold on it, but basically all I did was just rubbed it off. You see that black stuff that's on my finger? That's the black mold. And I got a toothbrush and I just went through and just scrubbed all this black soot that was on the leaves off. And I just left a little bit on there so I could show you all exactly what I'm talking about. But over time, once the white flies, the issue, the source of the problem was taken care of, then the secondary issue also got taken care of eventually. It's almost like if you have an infected tooth, Pain medicine is the band-aid, but antibiotics is the cure. But either way it go, I had the cure was cutting the tree down and killing the white flies, but the secondary band-aid, the pain medicine, was scrubbing the mold off of the leaves. But eventually it got taken care of. I was really just frustrated, and I said, you know what? This is where champions are made of. You have to fight through it. So I fought through it. I said, I'm going to save these plants if it kills me. So I kept scrubbing them, and I kept scrubbing them. I'm like, I don't have any more Kentucky Wonder seeds, and I really want them, so I'm going to save this plant. And it happened. So thank God. I got through it, and one thing that I learned is how to get rid of white flies. So whenever you run into issues in the garden, don't look at it as if you failed. Look at it as if you have an opportunity to learn something that'll help you succeed in the future. So issues are always a good thing because it teaches you a good learning experience. So that's basically it with the Kentucky Wonders, and same with these Kentucky Wonders. They had almost died. Let's see if we can see the remnants of anything over here. No, oh, here we go. Look at there. If you can get a good look at that black mold. Yep, so all I did was just scrubbed it off, and it was taken care of. So note to anyone out there having issues with black soot on your leaves, it's black mold from white flies or some type of insect that leaves back honeydew. So moving on to the next issue that I was having. This is the purple hull peas, and it got infested with some type of rust on the leaves. And instead of them just dying down, they continued to fruit and everything. As you see, I have purple hull peas growing there, and they're still flowering. But I think it could have flowered and grown better had it not been, you know, sick. But since I put the fight on, I highly recommend this stuff. It works pretty well, and I can still hear some grasshoppers over there, but it's okay. They're not in the garden, but I'm going to be monitoring them. Go ahead, frogs, do your thing. But these are the purple hull peas. They had gotten sick. If you look at the leaves closer, it had some type of rust, disease on them. But they're doing better, and they're still producing fruit. So I'm going to keep it. At first, I was going to just rip it and throw it over the embankment and see if they'll continue to grow. Because I'll show you something pretty cool here. I threw some purple hull peas over the embankment that were extras, and they ended up growing, and they're growing up over the embankment right now. Oh, I can't stand that sound. But anyways, those are grasshoppers over there making that noise. But anyways, these are purple hull peas right here that I threw over the embankment, and they grew up, and now they're growing over this. I think it's a mulberry bush or whatever. It has some type of berries growing on it too. But they were in the garden growing wild, and I didn't know what it was, but I ended up pulling them. And this is one that I threw over it. It kind of set root, and it's looking like a monster right now. Look at that. But I used it to be like a trellis for the purple hull peas that's growing up here. Let's see if I can zoom in on one that's growing. Here's some growing right here. So that's pretty neat that I haven't done anything to maintain this plant at all. However, it's growing in the midst of all of these weeds. Look at that right there. I don't know how I'm gonna get to it. I'm just gonna have to let it be. But purple hull peas are growing over the embankment accidentally. So let's take a look at the tomatoes and the okra, and that should conclude the update on the garden. Okay, these are the tomatoes that's growing. If you'll see here, we have flowers about ready to start opening up in various places of the plants that I have growing here. And all of these big jumble of tomatoes that I have here is maybe about 3 or 4 plants, period. It's just growing, you know, bushing up and getting wider more and more every day. I got a lot of flowers growing in various places. Look at there. I'm trying to zoom in and focus so that you can see them. But right here and right here are flowers growing. Right here is an even better example. It's a little bit further along. Some tomato plants growing, some tomato flowers flowering. But yeah, I have a good bit of tomatoes growing in various parts of the garden now. So in about maybe 6 to 8 more weeks, I should have fully mature and ripe tomatoes looking pretty and sweet. And that's about it. This is the okra. As you see, some of the leaves are thin, some of the leaves are wide, and that's basically what the grasshoppers had done. They're slick because it happened so quick, slowly but surely. I barely realized it was happening until one day I'm like, the leaves look pretty thin. What they did was they went along the edges and ate the ends of them away so perfectly that you couldn't even tell they were being eaten. So they're pretty smart, I guess. Anyways, I have okra growing. If you see there, that's okra growing. But another thing that I did, and I'm just being patient. It's an experiment. This is my first garden, first year, so that's all my purpose really is to learn a lot from what I'm doing, so that every year that I do this, it's easier and I get better and better. So this right here is a pruned okra stem. What I did with a lot of the okra, half at least, is I pruned it down. I cut all of the flowering stems that I have here. That's about 6 feet tall, and I cut them down to about 4 feet tall, so that whenever they do grow back, instead of getting up to 10 feet tall, which these okras can actually get up to 10, even 15 feet tall if you let them, they'll get up to maybe 5 or 6 feet tall again, but they'll be growing like a bush instead of a tall tree like these are growing, which makes it hard for you to harvest the okra off of them. So, and another thing with the pruning is you should get more shoots coming out of the sides of it, vice just at the tip like these are doing. You'll have things growing off the side, shoots of heads of I can't even think of it what to call it, I don't know, okra growing off the side. So this is the okra, some of them still growing that I didn't cut, and the ones that I did cut, I'm just waiting patiently for them to start growing. Here, right here is another tomato plant that I was picking the sucker off of one of the other plants, and another tomato shot up in its place where the sucker had fallen to the ground. So I think I'm going to start grabbing my suckers and putting them away somewhere instead of just throwing them in the garden, because they're actually setting root and growing. But that almost sums up everything. This is the other purple hull pea thing that I have growing. It's leaning forward because it had gotten so tall that the tip broke off, and actually it's helped me out. I can easily just come up, instead of getting my ladder, I can just come up and just pick them off, the purple hull peas. But these aren't ready to be picked yet. They're in various stages there. You want them to be actually purple, and you want to be able to see the little peas through the casings of it, so that you can tell that, hey, those are pretty big. You know, I can't even feel any peas in here. So none of these are ready yet. That pretty much sums up everything that I've gone over, and issues that I've had in the last, I say 3 weeks since I did my last video. So this is Esther Lawson signing off with God's Grace Garden. Have a blessed day.